It's Constantine Chotov, and today I will be presenting my Studio 2 project for a game. The game is supposed to be an arcade-style top-down space shooter. And while making all the models, assets, and the game itself, I've taken inspiration from the Star Wars universe and the ships that are most often seen within it. For the game, for this milestone, I've got three models. Uh, the player, which is an X-Wing model, with another varying texture, which turns it blue instead of red, in case I decide to implement multiplayer in the game. Uh, the standard TIE Fighter, which is probably going to be the enemy most often seen in the game, and a TIE Advanced Fighter, which I will use as a different enemy, probably with greater strength, endurance, and basically just a boss or an elite encounter. I also plan on creating more assets, for instance, meteors, pickup items, etc. But that will come at a later date. In terms of coding, I've been following a tutorial on YouTube by a user called Strigifo, called Unreal Engine 4 Space Shooter Tutorial. I started off with a absolutely blank document, and in there I created a blueprint called BP Game Controller, which controls the spawning the player, the enemies, the beginning and the ending of the level, camera shaking when taking damage or being killed, uh, as well as clearing off-screen objects and a lot of other stuff. In the blueprint, I created uh, a bunch of variables: the player and the enemy start spawn location, the trigger location, which sets where a box collision I also created is, and that is used to clean up, and everything that collides with that would be destroyed, and as to not make the game too heavy with off-screen objects. A spawn interval, which controls how often enemies spawn. A spawned enemies actor, an array actor that clears up the enemies after the game ends, and the boolean called bPlayerDead, which checks whether or not the player is alive at the end of the game. If the player is alive or not at all at the moment of the check. In the construction script, I created I set the player's enemies and triggers spawn points by getting their location and assigning a new location, which is their respective spawn locations, which are set up in the variables themselves. And in the event graph, I created a chunk of code that controls the game's startup and at the end. It sets the players at the beginning of the game. It sets the player's status to not dead by using the boolean. Resets the spawn intervals of the enemies, resets their spawn points, spawns the player at the start of the game, possesses the player at the start of the game, and releases him when the game is over and he has died, or something like that. I also have a code for destroying everything that's any type of component that leaves the screen, so as to again not uh, overclock the machine the game is running on. And also I've set up a very simple camera shake over here, which activates whenever the player is hit or dies. I've also set up a code that spawns enemies at random locations by it also randomizes which enemies spawn via an actor array. And that's pretty much it in this. I also created blueprints for the player and both enemies. And so far, all I've got the player to spawn and do a simple animation, which I created using the timeline function. He does a 360 barrel roll, and only after that can his movement continue. I also attempted to set up projectile firing using just a standard cube and some built-in textures from the Unreal Engine itself as a test, and tried to set up a player movement, but for some reason both of those do not work, and I plan on asking Duke for advice on how to fix them in the coming lessons. I hope there's a way to resolve it, but otherwise, if we click play, as we see, the player spawns, does a small turn, and there are already a few spawned enemies over there. But the game still has problems, like I said, movement control and firing do not work, even though I have followed the tutorial step by step and checked multiple times for errors. Basically, that's all I've got. I know it's not much, but it's what I can do at the moment. Thank you.